Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we will discuss about nitrogen cycle. So let's talk about the nitrogen cycle in an elaborated manner in brief so that you can understand the importance of nitrogen in the agriculture. So let's talk about the nitrogen cycle. So before discussing about the nitrogen cycle, first of all, it's very important for us to understand about nitrogen, which is an element. So let's talk about it. So nitrogen, the most abundant element in our atmosphere, is crucial to life. Nitrogen is found in the soil, in the plant, in the water we drink, in the air we breathe. It is also essential to life. It is a key building block of DNA, which determines our genetics. It is essential to plant growth and therefore necessary for the food we grow. But as with everything, balance is key. Too little nitrogen and plants cannot thrive, leading to low crop yields. But too much nitrogen can be toxic to the plants and can also harm our environment. And plants that do not have enough nitrogen becomes yellowish and do not grow well and can have smaller flowers and fruits. Farmers can add nitrogen fertilizers to produce better crops, but too much can hurt plants and animals and pollute our aquatic system. So understanding the nitrogen cycle, how nitrogen moves from the atmosphere to the earth, through soil and back to the atmosphere in the endless. The cycle can help us grow healthy crops and protect our environment. So I hope this is understandable to you people, that why nitrogen is crucial for our life in limited supply. Now the main topic of this video is nitrogen cycle. So let's talk about it. So first of all, we'll talk about why is nitrogen important. So the delicate balance of the substance that is important for maintaining life is an important area of research, and the balance of the nitrogen in the environment is no exception. When plants lack nitrogen, they become yellowed with stunted growth and produce smaller fruits and flowers. Farmers may add fertilizers containing nitrogen to their crops to increase the crop growth. And without nitrogen fertilizers, scientists estimate that we would lose up to 1/3 of the crops we rely on for food and other type of agriculture. But we need to know how much nitrogen is necessary for the plant growth, because too much can pollute waterways and hurt aquatic life. Now next we'll talk about what exactly is nitrogen cycle. So let's discuss what exactly is nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen cycle is a repeating cycle of the processes during which nitrogen moves through both living and non-living things: the atmosphere, the soil, the water, plants, animal, and bacteria. And the microscopic living organisms that usually contain only one cells are found everywhere. Bacteria can cause decomposition or breaking down of the organic material in the soil. So, in order to move through the different parts of the cycle, nitrogen must change forms. In the atmosphere, nitrogen exists as a gas, that is N2, but in the soil, it exists as nitrogen oxide, that is NO, and nitrogen dioxide, and that is, which can be processed even further into different fertilizers, that is ammonium nitrate, NH4NO3. So there are 5 stages in the nitrogen cycle, and we will now discuss each of them in turn: fixation, mineralization, nitrification, immobilization, and denitrification. So these are basically the 5 stages of the nitrogen cycle, as you can see here on the screen. So when a mineral or the chemical drains away from the soil or the other ground material and leaks into the surrounding areas, is where certain forms of nitrogen become dissolved in water and leak out the soil and potentially polluted the airways. Now one by one we'll discuss the stages of the nitrogen cycle. So first stage of the nitrogen cycle, as you can see here, that is nitrogen fixation. I hope with the diagram it is very much clear. Now let's understand it. What is plant fixing nitrogen or nitrogen fixation? So in the stage of the nitrogen, in this stage what happened, nitrogen moves from the atmosphere into the soil. Earth's atmosphere contains a huge pool of nitrogen gas, but this nitrogen is unavailable to the plants because the gaseous form cannot be used directly by the plants without undergoing a transformation. So to be used by the plants, nitrogen must be transformed through the process called nitrogen fixation. So in fixation, this fixation converts nitrogen in the atmosphere into forms that plant can absorb through their root system. A small amount of the nitrogen can be fixed when lightning provides energy needed for N2 to react with oxygen, which is producing nitrogen oxide and the nitrogen dioxide. These forms of the nitrogen that enters soil through rain or snow. Nitrogen can also be fixed through the industrial process that creates fertilizers. This form of fixing occurs under high heat and pressure, during which atmospheric nitrogen and hydrogen are combined to form ammonia, that is NH3, which may then be processed further to produce ammonium nitrate, a form of nitrogen that can be added to the soil and used by plants. Most nitrogen fixation occurs naturally in the soil and by the bacteria. The nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen cycle through the various forms in the soil determine the amount of the nitrogen available for the plants to uptake. So this is the first stage of the nitrogen cycle, that is nitrogen fixation. Now second stage of nitrogen cycle is mineralization. So let's talk about it. We have already provided a picture that there you can correlate. So this stage takes place in the soil. Nitrogen moves from the organic materials such as a manure or the plant material to an inorganic form of nitrogen that plants can use. Eventually, the plant's nutrients are used up and the plant dies and decomposes. This becomes important in the second stage of the nitrogen cycle. Mineralization happens when microbes act on the organic material such as animal manure or decomposing plants or animal material and begin to convert it to a form of nitrogen that can be used by plants. All plants under cultivation except legumes. A member of pea family like beans, lentils, soybean, peanuts, peas are plants with seed pods that split in half. They get the nitrogen they require through the soil. Legumes get nitrogen through fixation that occurs in their roots nodules, as I have already said. So the first form of nitrogen produced by the process of the mineralization is ammonia, that is NH3. The ammonia in the soil then react with the water to form ammonium, that is NH4. This ammonium is held in the soil and is available for use by the plant that do not get nitrogen through the symbiotic nitrogen fixing relationship. Okay, so this is the second stage of nitrogen cycle, that is mineralization. Now let's talk about the third stage of the nitrogen cycle, that is nitrification, or you can say nitrification. So in the third stage, nitrification also occur in the soil. During nitrification, what happens? The ammonia in the soil produced during mineralization is converted into compounds called nitrates. Is converted into compounds called nitrates and nitrites. Okay, nitrates can be used by plants an animal that consumes the plant. Some bacteria in the soil can turn ammonia into nitrites. Although nitrite is not usable by the plants and animals directly, other bacteria can change nitrites into nitrates, a form that is used by plants and animals. This reaction provides energy for the bacteria engaged in this process. The bacteria that we are talking about are called nitrosomonas and nitrobacters. Nitrobacters turns nitrites into nitrates, and nitrosomonas transforms ammonia to nitrites. Both kinds of bacteria can act only in the presence of oxygen. The process of nitrification is important to plants as it produces an extra stash of available nitrogen that can be absorbed by the plants through their root system. I hope this stage 3 is clear to you of nitrogen cycle. Now let's talk about the fourth stage of the nitrogen cycle, that is immobilization. So the fourth stage of the nitrogen cycle is immobilization, sometimes described as a reverse of mineralization. Means it is also called as reverse of mineralization. These two processes together control the amount of the nitrogen in the soil, just like plants and microorganisms. In the soil require nitrogen as an energy source. These soil microorganisms pull nitrogen from the soil when the residues of the decomposing plants do not contain enough nitrogen. When microorganisms take in ammonium and nitrate, these forms of nitrogens are no longer available to the plants and may cause nitrogen deficiency or a lack of nitrogen. Immobilization therefore ties up nitrogen in the microorganisms. However, immobilization is important because it helps control and balance the amount of nitrogen in the soil by tapping it up. By tying it up and immobilizing the nitrogen in the microorganisms. So this is the fourth stage of the nitrogen. Let's talk about the last stage of the nitrogen cycle, that is denitrification. Okay. So let's talk about the denitrification, what happened in this stage. So in the fifth stage of the nitrogen cycle, what happened? Nitrogen returns to the air as nitrates and are converted to the atmospheric nitrogen, that is N2, by the bacteria through the process we call denitrification. This results in an overall loss of the nitrogen from the soil as the gaseous form of nitrogen moves into the atmosphere, back where you can see here, this is the reaction, chemical reaction which occurs in denitrification. So that's all in this video. We have discussed about the nitrogen cycle by step. So we have discussed the 5 stages of the nitrogen cycle. I hope these are clear to you. And I hope it is understandable to you the role of the nitrogen in the soil, that how much nitrogen is important for the agriculture in the soil in limited manner. Okay, so that's all for today. See you guys in our next video. Till then, stay connected with us for more videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below, and yes, press the bell icon for more updates. Stay safe and stay healthy, and yes,